Welcome to Detox Q&A, where all of your detox questions get answered to reclaim your energy, heal your gut, and leave brain fog behind. We're here to help you live a low-tox, high-vibe life that's easy on you and the planet, so you can be who you came here to be. I'm your host, Sinclair Kennally, certified toxicity and detox specialist, expert on detox for digestive disorders, and survivor of complex chronic illness. Episode 3. So today I wanted to share a little bit about our story and where our passion for serving you, our community, comes from. This is why we're so committed to helping you through the detox process and providing you with non-toxic, thoughtfully made products. And I have to be honest with you, this is pretty difficult to reflect on. So I did write a lot of it out because it's just hard. It's hard to reveal. It's hard to revisit. It sucks. But if even one person can avoid the pain that we experienced because we share this, then it's worth it. So I lost many years of my life to toxin-induced illness. And it came on really slowly. And I had like 2 decades worth of warning signs: oversensitivity to chemicals and certain foods, long-term stress I just couldn't shake, a tendency towards depression, becoming more introverted than I was in childhood, brain fog and a shortened attention span, never being able to really relax completely, stress eating, that was huge, with persistent cravings, really stubborn weight gain no matter what I did or what medications or what food plan I tried. I just could not shake it. Disproportionate reactions to frustrating experiences. I would just go from 0 to 100. I would fly off the handle and get instantly overwhelmed by small things. Becoming more overwhelmed in general with time, feeling fragile and not like myself, and just this increasing sense of burnout. Well, everything I learned as a 4th-generation entrepreneur and just as an American in general said, push through, I'll rest when I'm dead, no pain, no gain, rah, rah, rah. And I just honestly resented my body's limitations and thought I could ignore the warning signs, that addressing them was actually a sign of weakness and taking care of myself would only slow me down. And then it was too late. I ended up in the hospital and finally checked myself out when they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Michael took me home. I crawled into bed and I didn't get out for months. My business fell apart and so did everything else. I tried to understand what had happened to me and claw my way back to some level of function, but invariably I would just crash again. I honestly remember very little about ages 26 to 34, except for moments like these. Standing in the grocery store, staring at a refrigerated case of water and watching a woman open the door, grab a bottle, and walk away. And I would just burst into tears because I couldn't find the will to open that case door and then just leave without the water. Being unable to lift my arms up high enough to brush my teeth. So I didn't. For 5 years, I didn't brush my teeth. I would lay down flat on the couch with a paper towel and kind of slowly nudge my arms up to be able to wipe my teeth with it. That was pretty gross. Periods of brain fog and delusion so intense that I would lose all sense of perspective or awareness outside of myself. I really had no idea where I was or how I was affecting other people. It was just really sad. I would fly into a rage at my local coffee shop because the line took 5 minutes and I couldn't survive the pain of standing on concrete for that long. And I would just walk away thinking it was the barista and the customers in front of me and it was all their fault, just ruining my day, yada, yada. I used to cry at the thought of having to pee because it meant I had to find the energy to get up to get to the bathroom. And going years without seeing the back of my own office building or my employees back there that worked in that area because I couldn't walk that far. Living on 2 to 3 foods at a time because they were the only things I could keep down without crazy nausea, vomit, just bloating, you name it. It was so gross. Being sick is so gross. Michael having to pull me out of my car when I arrived home from work because I just could not find the will to get out of the car myself. I'd just sit there for over an hour until he would finally come out and just physically pull me out and get me into the house. I had to aim to drink enough each night to wake up buzzed to offset the pain. So I was constantly drunk or hungover. That didn't help, but it was the only thing that I knew would get me through in the moment. Aiming to, oh yeah, I'd said that one. Well, let's not relive it. taping my fingers straight with popsicle sticks before bed to try to save my joints. If I didn't, I would wake, it would like take hours to unclench my hands in the morning. And they would be just like crippled like this. And I would drive to work using my wrists to steer. I would start every day with a panic attack before I even got out of bed. It was the only way I could get up. I would like obsessively run through the most terrifying thoughts about my life and what was going wrong in our business to force myself to hyperventilate enough to have the energy to sit up. And honestly, I wanted to die every day. I had to work really hard to not step into traffic. And sometimes I did. Michael had to pull me back um, onto the sidewalk before someone hit me more times than I can count. So you can imagine what a toll this took on him because he was actually dealing with his own health issues, but he felt like he could never leave me alone, stop checking on me. Every day felt like a desperate fight for survival. So how did I handle this? Not well, turns out. I worked like hell to ignore my symptoms and even harder to hide them. I thought they were signs of weakness, of laziness, and the depression I couldn't shake. Hiding this from my friends was super easy because I didn't have the energy to maintain those relationships, and they all gave up on me. I worked harder to hide the symptoms from my family, my employees, and our customers because I just knew that I'd lose my income and possibly the whole business if I was honest about my limitations. I used all of my energy to develop a tough persona and bark at people to keep them at bay. So they thought that I was still somewhat in control. And in truth, I couldn't read well enough to get through an email. I couldn't understand our own financial reports. I certainly couldn't write an email, let alone a sentence. I had no idea what was going on in my company most of the time. And I'm pretty sure that I seemed like a total whack job throughout the whole process. It would just go like any stress or incoming information that would throw me off was just like I had no resilience to deal with it. You probably know somebody in your life who has disproportionate reactions, and it's a really good sign that they are dealing with something health wise. So I knew I was depressed more than I was aware of like this chronic pain, like all the aches and the discomfort in the gut. Although every time I would eat, it felt like I was stabbing myself with a knife, and that the thing that I most wanted to do was slit open my gut just to give it some relief. It was really intense. But somehow I was thinking that it was all my fault and that I was, a bad person and that I was just really depressed and I was screwed up in the head. And, my labs would look fine. So I'd go to these different doctors, specialists. They'd be like, well, yeah, your labs are fine. I don't know why this is happening to you. It's probably mental. Let's put you on some prescriptions. That did not end well ever. And so I would wonder what had happened to me. Where was the intelligent, patient, caring, productive, proactive leader that I used to be? I thought I was a complete failure. And I was afraid that I was going insane. Since doctors couldn't find anything wrong with me, I was devastated because they were just happy to prescribe those antidepressants, those diet pills, those ADD meds, those sleep pills. But honestly, those whacked me out even more. I literally could not recognize myself anymore. And I don't think anybody else could either. I planned my suicide many, many times. Only thing that kept me from going through with it was the guilt that I would leave Michael on his own with a huge mess to clean up. And I had always been a very spiritual person, but I could no longer feel that connection or support. I could no longer feel that inner guidance, which I used to just take for granted. I honestly thought that God had left me for dead. Thankfully, Michael was the one who figured this out. It was him who saved me. He figured out that I had toxin-induced illnesses and heavy metal poisoning, and he found the specialist finally who could confirm it. Now I had a diagnosis, finally. Toxin-induced fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's disease, chronic Lyme disease, PANDAS, EBV, mold toxicity, and heavy metal poisoning. But none of the doctors had any idea of what would help. And for those of you listening that, I hear this from you all the time. I get these amazing letters from you that bring me to tears because you've read something about my story somewhere and you hear yourselves in it. I know I'm not the only one. This is like ridiculous what an epidemic this is. So Fine, maybe you finally have a diagnosis, but no one knows how to help, right? I was taught ineffective strategies to manage all these diagnoses and told that I would never be well, never be cured. Michael had a completely unrelated set of symptoms and conditions, by the way, which also had defied diagnosis and made it difficult for him to function. He had a brain fog so intense, it would take him 10 hours to wake up in the morning. He would wake up more exhausted than when he went to bed without fail. It almost made it so that he was afraid to go to sleep. He was plagued with unresolvable teeth grinding, which he literally saw every specialist for this, every dental specialist, every whack job, and people who like therapists who promised rapid change therapy that could somehow, cure him of this, and that it's always somehow implying that it was his fault. Terrible sleep, intolerable skin issues, deep depression, severe paranoia, bouts of rage. Like I remembered I would be sleeping and something would set him off and he would fly into the room and just be screaming. He'd turn the lights on and start throwing things like he was just beside himself. And he was just on like this over alert all the time, system wide. He just could not get a break. And he had crippling food allergies that often changed overnight. And so he would think he would find something finally, this is the diet or this is the protocol that's going to help me. And it would last maybe 10 days before his body would like morph and start to fight him and his food again. It was nuts. He was basically just in a private hell that no one could see or help him to escape because he looked like he was sort of functioning. He didn't look super ill, but this was all going on the inside all the time and he could not get a break from it. He searched for thousands and thousands of hours, gathering groundbreaking studies, cutting edge methods, and ancestral healing techniques together to help us both. He attended hundreds of summits and conferences meant for medical professionals. Thankfully, he was a therapist who was able to get in, and trained directly under world renowned teachers, sifting through endless approaches to find what actually works. He honestly healed us both by identifying and removing the toxic stressors from our food, our home, and our work. Dude, I'm going to tell you some stories in future episodes that will shock you because it's just like, why is this even possible to be happening in a home? And then you realize what's going on and you remove that one thing and you finally get better. He is literally the reason that I'm walking, the reason I can read and write, and the reason I'm alive. And the strategies that he found worked for us both, even though we had different symptoms. And that was the light bulb moment for us because we had completely different symptoms and the same protocols cured us. All this cutting edge research from different fields on different continents is pointing towards a few crucial changes that must be made to rescue our collective health and well-being. The symptoms are myriad, but the solutions are consistent and simple. And what we share in this podcast and on our site and in our business is the culmination of his years of research and now our shared study under the world's leading experts on toxicology and modern chronic illnesses. So we've paired our combined 30 plus years of experience in mental health and personal development to make this material accessible and the life you want achievable, even under the onslaught of these toxins. The hard truth is that we're all exposed to a frightening amount of pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, and plastics daily. And our body's natural detox processes are just unable to keep up. They need our help. They're not stupid. Our bodies are brilliant. They're so fucking smart. It's never too late. And if they're left unattended, the physical, emotional, and mental, stressors resulting from these toxins just cascade into this snowball effect that ends up being devastating. It looks different for every person, but it's there. So whether you're already aware of symptoms that you're experiencing or you simply want to prevent this from happening to you, just know that we're here for you through this podcast and everything else that we do. Our goal is to educate you on the toxicants that you're exposed to every day and how they're holding you back from the radiant vitality that is your birthright. We're here to empower you to reclaim your full vitality and protect your future health, to help all of us change makers survive this urgent time, show up fully, be who we came here to be, and do our best work. And it is honestly our privilege to share this information with you. So I hope you'll join us on this journey for all the questions that we answer and all the topics that we explore here, because we are here for you. With all our love, Sinclair and Michael.